Hey, everybody, thank you. What's up? Thank you for listening and watching Bootleg Like Jazz. I'm your host, Q. And hey, this is February 29th, 2020. You know what that means? Leap Day. We're the only digital show bringing you content on Leap Day. Fuck with your boy. Today on the show, we got the amazing Lupe Mendez.
Oh, what's up, everybody?
We're at Cuchata, just saying what's up to the lovely and amazing Anna. One day, we're going to get her on camera, but she's a busy woman doing her thing. Thank you, Cuchata. Check out Cuchata. When I come here, I love the tamarind margarita. I typically do not do fancy mixed drinks, but at Cuchata, we do it big.
That's right.
But today on the show, we're going to talk to Lupe Mendez. He is the author of Why I Am Like Tequila. Congratulations to him because he just won the Robertson Book of First Poetry. Big woo, 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 woo. Shout out to him for that. You know what? I agree. I'm done listening to me. Lupe, welcome.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. It's good stuff, man.
Big shout out to your amazing wife and your child as well.
Man. Thank you, man.
Big things, man.
What's up, man? Yo, it's like I wasn't expecting it. So to start off with that, man, like
congratulations.
2 weeks ago, I've been sitting on this 2 weeks. Thank you. The head of the Texas Institute for Letters, Caranta Foya, former Texas State Poet Laureate, former San Antonio Poet Laureate, calls me and says, "Are you sitting down?" And I'm like, did somebody die?
Oh,
so she's
that's
like,
how she started it?
She started it. She was like, hey, actually it was an email. She was like, I need you to call me. And was like, oh shit, something broke. I fucked up.
Yeah, I know.
It's like when your mom yells at you. It's like one of the. So I was like, so I called her and she was like, oh, it's so good to hear from you. Are you sitting down? I was like, no. She's like, you might want to sit down. And I was like, oh, somebody in the writing community in Texas has cancer. And
I know,
and
right?
I was like, well, what? She's like, so we found the finalists for the prize. And I was like, what prize? I'm a finalist? Oh, the book prize. Oh, she's like, and so we're just calling to let you know that Why I Am Like Tequila won. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a finalist. She's like, no. Your book won the award. I was like, what? So, like, that took a minute to set in. And then right away, she was like, but you can't say anything until we put the press release out.
What was going through your mind?
I was like, well, it must have been... I was self-deprecating and never, like, I don't believe my own hype, which is okay. But my first thought was, oh, it must have only been like 4 books. Or it was like 5 books. Maybe they felt sorry for me. I literally thought, because I had also sent a postcard, because you have to mail the books to the judges. I was like, I put postcards in the little, to like in the middle of each book. And I was like, it was postcards that did it. They liked the postcards. But no, I later find out that it was like a lot of writers turned in their first books. And so I was like, oh, I'm both shocked and then impressed with the work that the judges have done. My thanks to the judges and the Texas Institute of Letters. And so it's good stuff. It's good stuff. My first thought was, this can't be real. They're going to call me later and say, oh, we made a mistake, or I don't know. But so far, so good. It's awesome. We do a reading at the end of March for it. They're going to give me a check and a steak.
There's a bag.
There's a bag, yo.
There's a bag.
And a steak dinner.
There's a bag. Oh. So, how do you hope to like use this
leverage-wise? Simply put, it gives me the opportunity to have the book out for a little longer. Because we're now at the end of February, coming into May, it'll be a year that the book's out. So I want to actually, I had already planned of having a final blowout reading for the book back home in Galveston for May 5th. And now because of the award, I get to keep the book out a little longer and hopefully garner a few other readings that I wasn't able to do with the first year of the book. And then just have it out just a little longer and have it marinate with folks.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So
Why I'm Like Tequila? How'd you come up with that idea?
So, funny part,
Got to get you a copy. Where can people
You
get
can order a copy if you go to Willow Books online. You can check them out, willow.net. The book's there, or you could just Google the book title, or you can go to my website, thepoetmendez.org. Big, huge cover, and you just click on it, and it'll send you to the order page. Because my family is from the state of Jalisco, and if anybody's ever drank Don Julio, that is made in my hometown. My family has lived in the region for centuries, and
Jalisco is in Mexico. For those who don't know, Guadalajara, which is the second largest city in the country, is larger than New York. So it's historic. I didn't know that.
It's ancient.
What?
We got it. But the region is
the roots run deep.
So diverse. Like the state itself, you have jungle terrain, mountainous terrain, lots of marshland, lots of growth.
Jungle terrain, really?
Like the forests, it's like not exactly rainforesty, but very much like think of like West Coast, like forests of that regard, minus the redwoods. But tons of pines, tons of land, and the soil is so rich. Anything grown that is labeled as tequila comes from the state. The only space where you can get tequila from. But so learning and understanding how the process works, I had always learned the concept that, having taught for so long as well, as an educator, I teach science. And it's the concept.
How many years were you in the classroom?
19 years. This is my 20th year not in the classroom.
Damn.
Yeah. Like, great hair. So we could talk about
19 years?
Yeah, 19 years in the classroom. Yeah. I'm now... Teacher development is now the name of the game.
Mad respect. Bootleg Like Jazz celebrates, supports, and stands with teachers. Mad respect.
Thank you, sir.
That's real, kid. Man, damn, that's real.
In teaching science, I had learned that like the cells in the body completely reproduce the whole body, replace themselves after 7 years. And the same concept with tequila, it takes 7 years to grow the agave, the maguey that grows into the big, huge plant that's then dissected and cut up, and you pull the root out, which is the size of a massive ass beach ball.
I heard a random woman tell me there were health benefits to drinking tequila.
Yeah. And
like straight tequila.
Straight. It was pulque. Like that's the original source drink of what this stuff was. The indigenous version of what would eventually be distilled later into tequila comes from pulque. It's a traditional drink. And so when you take the root, you dissect it, you boil it, you take it apart, you cut up all the blades that are on it, all of it, and it eventually is an astringent of it, and astringent of it is the tequila, and then mezcal, and then you have pulque, like all these sources, right? So in that, it's the idea that when we are boiled and pressured and prodded and heated, when are we our most refined, right? And if it takes a while to get to that point, things ebb and flow in life. Like you are a high point.
I'm not here no more. Just let him have a show.
But it's all that concept, right? And so as I was developing the concept of the book, that's what stood out for me. And it's also the other side of it that I joke and was like, why I Am Like Tequila has nothing to do with the drink part. Like, I think I mentioned like the title poem makes a mention of drinking it, and then it's a slap in the face because it's like, stop drinking it as a shot, you selfish shit, because it's a slow sip liquor. You don't
all of them.
You don't ever shoot like you.
So whose idea was it to shoot it? White folks.
Where we at?
Texas.
Thank you.
Okay.
Space is white folks, them peoples, because it's real fast and ain't nobody paying attention to how it's. First time my cousins and I got together in Mexico to because my cousins in Cali wanted to take a bottle and do shots, and my grandfather saw us. He just got up and he was like, he slapped the shit out of 3 of us.
Oh, damn.
And he was like, it takes 7 years. You don't know how long it takes to make this. Don't disrespect.
That's real.
Don't disrespect the process.
That's real.
And I was like,
that's real.
Oh, so sipping. It's a sipping drink.
Can you sip from your book and read read a piece? Yeah, you like that, huh? Sip from like your book.
I like that.
Ooh wee! Should have dang on bang on shine. How?
I'm going to do.
This is Lupe Mendez. Go check him out. Recent poetry book winner. Also, he has some readings and great events coming up. Check him out online, Lupe Mendez. Why I Am Like Tequila. He's about to read a piece for us. We chilling here at Cuchata. Go ahead, bro.
Not too far away, actually. Back home in Galveston. My
G-Town.
mom. This is a poem about my mom and stuff she did. Driving by the Old State Theater on Ama's 79th birthday. She is now 84. She damn near snaps her neck. Eyes stick to the fachada of an old movie house bare, gutted, white inside. She smiles, looks, says, I know why you such a bruto, mijo. Unfolds an old memory back in 58. Downtown Galveston had signs, big, stark, white, black letter signs, colored here, colored there. Nothing para invisible Mexicanos. Unknown unless you make a mistake. Dangle you in a tree branch late at night. The rent lady tells me to be careful at night. Used to babysit Anita and her pigtails, a nursing school hustle, a barter. Anita had a friend. Ama goes on. Beautiful, plump, black, small Olivia. Ama loves to teach the girls how to cook on Saturdays, pancakes, eggs, eat warm syrup with a spoon, buy them dolls, watch them struggle with times tables, and takes them to the movie house. In front, it had signs, big, stark, white, black letter signs, no colored. Here in the building, mijo, I am a bruta then. Now, I love Galveston Island winters, a reason to hide the girls in my peacoat. Pay the janitor, sneak them through the back door. Their hands warm, sticky from sweet maple. Their heads unaware of hate. Their eyes, their skins are the same in the dark.
Wow.
My mom used to tell me that.
Go ahead.
Before
Man.
deseg, I would ask her, like, what did the island look like?
What's deseg?
Before desegregation, right? So before spaces
Technically, we've been always integrated.
Right.
Okay, technically, Malcolm X, right?
Right.
Go listen to him. Technically, we were always integrated.
And before spaces became quote unquote desegregated, the spaces everybody was used to the concept of, you know, where individuals could go and what doors
right.
could whatever. And my mother didn't give a shit. My mother, real ballsy. I used to, in my 20s, I used to be like, Mom, very much trying to be as woke as possible. I asked my mom in my late 20s, I was like, Mom, what were you doing politically to like do shit when you were in your 30s and when you were younger? She was like, mijo, I graduated in 1955 out of the Rio Grande Valley, moved to become a nursing aide, became a nurse in the late 50s in Galveston, in a time when there were rarely Mexican or black or Filipino nurses. I was being a nurse. That was active enough. And I'm like,
so it's this idea that her being in, you know, having a job, showing up to do the work,
showing up and do the work,
being
like
present,
and looking at the dynamics and the percentages. That was true. There weren't the late 50s, early 60s was the beginning of a licensed vocational nursing license in Texas. So there were not that many black or Mexican nurses anywhere. And so knowing that concept, growing up, my mom would say that she would notice that buses, people sat in the back, and that she would constantly, she lived in this lady's house, rented a room, and instead of paying money, she would just babysit. And so the little girl that she babysat had a friend that lived 2 streets over, and those 2 streets were the division between the Mexican side of town and the black side of town. But Olivia would always come over, and the girls would do homework, and the girls would eat food. And when they would get on the bus to go to the movies, people would try to say that Olivia had to sit in the back, and my mom would stand up and say no.
I ask a lot of people this question. Do you think desegregation was a good thing? The whole bill, the whole law, the whole fight, protest.
I think the
should we have done that?
I think the process to ask, the process to enforce, the process to request and demand structural changes for the idea of equality and equity are important. I think that the concept of vigilance is the thing that people need to be more obsessed with. I think that there's a part at which people are struggling, fighting. And then when you think you've gotten what you think you've wanted, somebody's always in the back trying to retool that shit to still keep a foot on the neck. And I think, yes, there are the pluses that are necessary to make sure that everybody's learning from everybody. Deseg is important in that regard. But I think what's turned out is there's always been this sidestep plan to then change that concept so that it still becomes a segregated idea, right? So, case in point, the next book project I'm working on talks about the desegregation.
Man, look at you.
I'm working on a book project on the desegregation of Houston, the history of desegregation in Houston, which occurred in 1970. And
that's like, what, 50 years ago?
I am 43. I was born in 76. So 6 years before I was born is when Houston deseg.
That's about 50 years ago. It's 2020 now.
Yeah. So conceptually,
how do you not, when you think about these numbers though,
no, it's scary shit.
How do you say,
scary
well,
shit.
That was a long time ago?
Nope. Here's why.
You guys had enough time. It's too far away to affect. That's really one generation.
Yeah.
If you count generations, it's 40 years.
So studying the history of it, it's a perfect example of a white system pitting two marginalized groups against each other. When HISD desegregate, and I work for the district. When at the time the district was entirely white, there had been rumors and calls for us that some of the members of the board were card-carrying members of the KKK.
Yeah, I believe it.
At the time, they created a desegregation program where they were busing kids in elementary. They picked 12 quote-unquote black schools and 12 quote-unquote white schools, and then they would pair them, and they would bus a certain number of kids from one school to the other school and a certain number of kids from that school to the other school. But what the reality of it was is there were no real white schools in the mix. All the quote-unquote white schools were brown schools. And so they were using both communities to check a box for a national thing that was supposed to be occurring across the country. And Mexican families deplored it for 2 reasons. And that's the part that I'm looking at is they were pissed that, so you're not going to include any white kids, but you're going to use us as scapegoats and guinea pigs for this shit. And then you also had a population of Mexicans that were like, well, we don't want to go to school with black kids. Like that level of racism is real. That level of prejudice is real. But there were lots of individuals that were like, okay, but wait, this is still not equitable because where the fuck are we in this mix? All of the schools that were paired sat outside of 610. And that's what the district wanted. So now you're pitting two communities that were already fighting one another.
That's Spring, Klein, Woodlands.
But you were pitting these two communities against one another. And then they stopped busing kids. So now you're having little kids, black and brown kids, from kinder to high school, walking into each other's neighborhoods in a time where both communities were at each other's throats for basic necessities, for jobs, for food.
This brings up this is election season, right? The primary, Texas primary, right? Like I told you, it's February 29th, March 3rd. Do you think that voting in presidential elections matters?
I think voting...
Do you think I should just only vote in local and state elections? Or does presidential elections matter?
I think we need to vote across every platform and in every way.
Who's we?
Those of us with the ability to vote. So, communities of color have a long-standing history of not voting for local elections and only voting for presidential. We need to be as informed as possible to know bond elections, school board elections, your neighborhood. Like, we don't have aldermen down here. That's a northern concept, but like
aldermen,
the individuals who are in charge of like whole blocks and neighborhoods,
they're called aldermen.
Those are aldermen in like Chicago and different
I've heard
states.
that name before,
but we don't have that set of organizational practices here. But because this is the South, right? Mobilizing and unionizing is a northern concept that bombed out here because it's still a system that's like 20, 30 years behind what should actually be ways that we organize to better things for community. In that regard,
sure,
we individually, our own houses, our own neighborhoods, we need to be more mobilized and more conscious of what a voting block can do and be informed and continually informing one another about particular issues as they're coming up, right? Again, it goes back to the idea of vigilance, right? Like, okay, I voted for the president. I'm done. No, the fuck you're not. Like, you still have your municipal stuff. You still have city council elections. You still have your your constables, your judges, your school board. Like, all of this shit matters, right? Yeah, hell, even if you live in a neighborhood where you have an HOA, shit, you better know what rules they're making in your neighborhood.
So you definitely are talking about voting consistently.
Voting consistently, being an active member of community and citizenship, because these are things that are both rights and in some cases privileges, because this is not always the thing that is occurring in every other space across the world, right? So to falter on that, to not use that, is playing into the hands of those individuals who want to keep you down, who don't want you to vote, but who want you to keep buying all the things and looking at all the shows.
For sure.
And that's the shit that is part of this conversation. And so,
can you read another piece?
Yeah.
Once again, thank you for watching and listening to Bootleg Like Jazz. Subscribe. Hit that red button or whatever color that button is. Turn on the notifications. We got the amazing Lupe Mendez here with us on the show. Thank you and shout out to Cuchada Restaurant here in Houston, Texas for letting us film here.
Sandy speaks for Sandra Bland at the first anniversary of her death. Mi abuela dice que cuando muere un cuerpo, they do not end in closed lips. They breathe last in the breeze, one that covers you at the panteón right when you pass a puño de tierra al cruzar el ataúd. But now, next to this roble, I wonder if this summer breeze is you, Sandra. A constant current that walks past the road, past the oak, into the tall grass, into the pines, twined between the branches of sunlight, the waves of moths that flutter, float in an evening field. Breathe into me, lady, another song. Caress my forehead, comfort my fever with a cool. I want to place roses for you, light 1,000 candles bright enough to carry me into the past. I'll take your place. The news channels will ignore me. No one covers it when a Mexican hangs. in Texas. It's enough, I think, to keep you off that road. Let me be wake me up enough to embrace your air. It is the space where I know you are. You are now a whirlwind, a strolling body in every respiro, a gust that breaks a voice box. Let me shout your name, a sore throat footprints in me, one that I will never forget.
Eso.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, where can people find you online again?
You go to my website, thepoetmendez.org. I'm all over Twitter at thepoetmendez. I have an Instagram at Ellupis, ELLUPIS. I'm the Houston Literary Outreach Coordinator for Poets and Writers, Inc. So that's on Twitter as
Big
well.
moves, boss moves.
I'm all over the place. So I'll probably see you soon. And thanks for
You got any events coming up? Any readings? Anything like that?
I will actually be, so I'll be in San Antonio this next week for
Go
AWP.
buy this. We forgot to tell you again.
Go buy that book. AWP for the American Writers and Writing Programs Conference. And so there's a ton of readings. I'm going to post those online. So that's what's up.
Subscribe, turn on notifications. This is Bootleg Like Jazz. I'm your host, Q. We're out.